Hey, folks. You are listening to Eye on the Target Radio with Rob and Amanda, and we are now in the segment that is one of my absolute favorites. So, well, wait, I guess they all are. Who doesn't like, I love telling the childhood stories. I love the history of the gun. And then I love having guests. So it's just a love fest across the board. So I know I sound just a little too whatever, but no, I am so excited to have Dan Wos online with us. So Dan is the author of a book, Good Gun, Bad Guy, and he does this other stuff that is so, once again, so cool. Is he does this stuff called dissecting the anti-gun propaganda, and when you start to look at what he does and how he does it, I'm such a fan. Hey, Dan.
Hey, Amanda and Rob. Thanks for having me on your show, and congratulations on your new radio venture.
Oh, yeah. Well, we are so glad to have you. I mean, the things that you do and the things that you say and the way that you put it all together is pretty darn exciting and pretty darn interesting, and it gives me an opportunity to carry your book on an airplane and scare other passengers just by sitting next to them with a book with a gun on it.
If you listen to how he dissects the news, it makes you listen to the news completely differently also.
Oh, man, it does. It does. So why don't you tell folks a little bit about what you do with this dissecting the anti-gun propaganda and where they can see it?
You know what's funny? I think sometimes the best stuff is the organic, authentic things that we do. This just kind of happened as an accident. Our good friend Jan Morgan was on CNN, and she called me up and she said, "Dan," she said, this interview wasn't quite right. Can you look through this interview and kind of try to point out what they're doing and how they're doing it, how they're manipulating the conversation for their anti-gun spin?" And I said, "Sure." So I went through and I narrated it line by line, all the tricks and all the little catchphrases and gotcha questions and all the little things about the interview that were designed to put Jan on a very difficult side of the conversation. You know, there was a moderator, and then there was an anti-gun activist, and then there was Jan Morgan, who's obviously a pro-gun activist. And the way they had it all set up was you could see how it made it very difficult for her, just by the way they twisted the narrative and shaped everything and made it so she was it wasn't easy for her to have a conversation. But the thing is, I posted this thing, and you can see it on YouTube. You can go to the Good Gun, Bad Guy YouTube page, and everybody loved it. And they said, "Wow, this is just fantastic, just like what you guys are saying." But the truth is, this is my normal research. This is how I am able to write the books and help people see this stuff. This was a happy accident because this is what I normally do. There's nothing new to me.
How does your mind work, sir? Because, the rest of us are just sitting there eating chips and watching the news and absorbing it and going, yeah, or throwing our sock at it. And you're like, hold on, wait.
Well, here's the difference, and not everybody knows this, but I was on the anti-gun side of the conversation for a short time in my life. So I remember the feelings, I remember the emotions, I remember the thought process and how that anti-gun propaganda influenced me. But because I had an early background with guns, it didn't stick, and I had a contradicting thought process, two thought processes at once about guns. One said guns are good and fun because I shot guns with my dad, and the other said guns are scary and bad. So the two narratives didn't mix in my brain, and I was able, and I still I'm able to see when those strategies are being used, because I've seen this conversation from both sides. And I know it sounds kind of strange, but I don't know. Sometimes you're able to see things that maybe other people don't see. And if you just listen to the words they say and the implications that the words have, you can see the result they're trying to achieve, or you can see the emotion they're trying to evoke when they use terms like, for instance, gun violence. Gun violence is a nomenclature created to scare people. It doesn't exist. There's human violence, but no gun violence. Assault weapon, another piece, Wild West. There's all these terms, but there's also these strategies that they use to scare people of guns and to make them angry toward gun owners. So it's just an interesting way to look at it. To me, it's normal, and I don't know. That's about it, I guess.
Well, I think your point about gun violence and the terms that they use. I was watching the news one day, and there was an active killer who had used a knife, used a machete, used his car, and used a gun. Okay?
Amanda, can I stop you 1 quick second?
Yeah.
I appreciate you so much saying active killer. And this is key right here, and you didn't say active shooter.
Right. Well, the news said active shooter. So I'm sitting there in the morning going, how can they say active shooter when they didn't say active driver or active knifer or active macheteer? So
Bingo.
I got on the phone and I called the newsline. Then I emailed them. And then when I listened to the news in the next hour, they had changed it to active killer.
Wow.
So I invoked change because I saw it, I noticed it, and I took action. Others can do the same. But there is that. And then I actually got an apology from the person who was putting the news out, saying you are 100% right, and thank you.
Well, because
wow.
shooter indicates the gun, and it's not the gun. Killer, implies that a human being did the act, and that's what we should be focused on. But they don't do that, and they do it purposely because they want to demonize guns, of course.
You're very right, but in this case, it wasn't even that you could say, oh well, you're picking at nits. It really was that there were so many different ways that they chose to attack and to harm others. Yet the news program.
Some of it, looking at it though, is that guy used that phraseology without even thinking, because it's drilled into his head to use active shooter, not.
Right, and we need to change it. We need to take that back. We need to take those. I'm an active shooter because I shoot actively and have a good time at it, but I'm not an active killer.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's what we need to do. We need to change the narrative back to an honest gun narrative. And right now, it's not an honest gun narrative. It's a fake, phony, scary gun narrative, and that's what they want.
It really is. So let's talk a minute about your book, because I want people to have an opportunity to know who you are, to be able to get to who you are, and to buy your book so that they can carry it around, read it, know it, and be a Dan Wos fan too.
And scare people on planes.
I'm telling you, I alluded to this, scare people on planes. I was on an airplane and I was flying, and the person next to me looked at Dan's book in my hand that had a picture of a gun on the cover and asked the stewardess for a new seat because she couldn't sit next to that.
I laugh, but this is a real problem in our society. These people are so brainwashed, and it's sad because you watch them walk around like zombies, so scared and fearful of guns. It's unjustified. It's so ridiculous that they can fall for this nonsense, but they do every single day. And you know what? The anti-gun politicians and media, they know it and they love it, and they use it as much as they can, and the stupid people fall right in line. So I'm kind of glad that story came up, because you've told that story a few times, and I love it. And it's the reason that I put that, the reason that I designed the cover the way I did, because I wanted
good.
to make
We've
a
got
bold
30
point.
seconds, so I don't want people to lose. 30 seconds.
Okay.
So-
They can find my book at goodgunbadguy.net or goodgunbadguy.com, or they can search Good Gun Bad Guy on Amazon.
So it's Dan Wos, and it's Dan, W-O-S. So you can just search for his name. You'll find this book with a black book with a black gun on the cover. And you, too, can scare people and, like, threaten to put them out like they're a fly on the newspaper. So, Dan, thank you very much for joining us on Eye on the Target Radio. We appreciate it.
If you want more interviews by me, click one of the videos on the right. And if you haven't read Good Gun Bad Guy or Good Gun Bad Guy 2, I'm offering a limited time autographed copy. So click the link below. And remember, your Second Amendment, it's not a privilege, it's your right.